Growing up, I was a big baseball player. One thing I hated was the conditioning that we had to do during practice. One practice burns in my brain every time I think about when I played baseball. We were in the middle of our winter conditioning. Our coach had us all do a 5-minute plank. I 100% tried to sneak out of that practice without doing any amount of planking. But unfortunately, everybody else was, so I would plank until I got tired. I would look and make sure the coach wasn't looking, and then I would take a quick break and then pick myself back up when he was about to look again. And I did this until the end of the 5 minutes, and then I told him, I was like, "Yep, coach, I'm done. Time to go home. It was good practice." But little did I know that the other coach was watching the whole time. He totally ratted me out for skimming the time off, and I was then forced to do the whole thing all over again. And it was way worse by the end of it than if I just had done the original 5 minutes. Tonight, we are studying the story of Ananias and Saphira. This is a husband and a wife that wanted their image to look good, so they lied about what they gave. And they paid the ultimate punishment. They lied and they died. Through this story, and like my baseball practice, we learned that we must live with integrity. So you see at the end of chapter 4 that there's some new believers that are gathering in Jerusalem, and they're sharing all of their possessions with one another. These people are coming from distant places, and they want to stay in Jerusalem to hear from the apostles about following Jesus. But they left their homes. They have many needs to be able to live, and the people are selling what they have and giving to the church so that everyone has a chance to get discipled deeper. This shows that the people were putting God first, people second, and their material things last. And for Ananias and Saphira, they didn't care about meeting other people's needs, but they only cared about their image. They only wanted to look like they fit in. They didn't really actually want to give their all. So they began to plot. And one day Ananias sold some of his land, and he decided to keep some of the money. He gave the rest to the apostles, but he implied that he gave all of the proceeds from the sale. Peter's the one who confronts him. Now Peter knows that Ananias lied about giving everything. You see, notice Ananias' sin was not keeping some of the money. His sin came from lying about how much he gave. Peter tells Ananias that he was free to do whatever he wanted with his land and even with his money from the sale. He was not under an obligation to give his possessions to the church. But Ananias still wanted other people to respect him, to think he was generous, and to look like he fit in. To everyone gathered, Ananias appeared like every other believer, another person that sold his land and gave it to the apostles. But Peter saw through him. Sometimes it is easy to be happy with the image of spirituality rather than the reality of a spiritual life. Because of his lie, Ananias then dies on the spot. And after her husband dies, his wife Saphira comes to where everyone was gathered, and the same thing happens to her. Peter confronts her about the amount that they sold the land for. She lies, and she was instantly dead and buried next to her husband. So the outcome was not what Ananias and Saphira wanted. They did not get more respect by making themselves look better, nor were they honored, or were they even thanked for the gift. In fact, throughout this story, we see the opposite is true. Those who are humble, who actually sacrificed, those who gave all that they had to the other people, those who lived with integrity, are the ones who got the most respect. You see, it is important to notice that the people who you surround yourselves with will influence who you become. Ananias was in community with his wife, someone who lacked integrity, and they chose together to live a dishonest life. So if you surround yourself with people that have no integrity, you will become a person that lacks integrity. In the verses that follow their death, we see the church continue to multiply and to be blessed. We see people get healed, and it even says more than ever believers were added to the Lord. You see, the married couple, they could have been a part of this great blessing of the work that God was doing, but instead we see pride corrupting two people within the church. You see, pride is seeking to build your image instead of seeking to know God and to follow His will. You see, in the end, that will only hurt you. We see this a lot, actually. People trying to make themselves seem better than they are. Social media is the perfect example of this. Doesn't it always feel like people are on the perfect vacation, they always have the new best thing, and they always know like the most information? They always have an interesting life. They seem so perfect. And much of the time it's easy to chase that image of a life, but we forget that their life online is not real. It's simply that of an image. They have filters and angles and lighting that make their online life not genuine. We even act and talk in ways that we wouldn't if we were in person. It's super easy to confront someone that thinks differently than you or start an argument with someone that hurt you when it's in front of a screen. Why? Because it's not real. It is easy to pursue the image of a spirituality and not the reality of a spiritual life. We're in a culture that worships image. They don't care about the reality, but if you look like you fit in, you'll do all right. And that's not healthy, HSM, nor is it sustainable. You will never do enough to please everyone. Standards change constantly, and people's opinions change daily. Popularity is a word that we all want, but we all recognize that it means walking on eggshells to make sure that we never mess up, or that nobody notices that we mess up. The book of James says that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. It's okay to have needs. The early church had a ton of them, but true community came when the people were genuine, when they cared about other people more than they cared about their own image. So tonight, think about in your small groups, how can you make your life more genuine, more honest, full of integrity? Do you surround yourself with people that have an honest faith? The people that you are surrounded by will form who you become, either towards working for a fake image or working to live with integrity. So as followers of Jesus Christ, we must live a life of integrity. Go in peace, HSM. You are loved.